Here's a crazy idea. Lesson 0 is not just a great episode, because I'm sure many of you would agree with that, but it is the single most important episode in the whole show. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, hey, Cam Goes Pony, your username is weird and kinda creeps me out. But also, sure, Lesson 0 had some great humor in it, and also revealed some interesting depth about Twilight's character, but lots of episodes are funny and add character depth. What makes Lesson 0 so important? And you're right, my username is weird, and it creeps me out too. But, and to answer your question, because without Lesson 0, the show today would be much, much worse than it is now. Hear me out. As much as Lesson 0 is about Twilight Sparkle and her struggle to find a lesson to learn about friendship, it's also about the writers and their struggle to find lessons to write about friendship. The writers are supposed to write an episode explaining a lesson about friendship for every week. Not for every other week, not for every 10 days, for every single week. Sound familiar? My point is, the writers are also being hard-pressed to come up with a lesson to have in every episode. When shows have a formula like this, it leads to problems. Eventually, the writers will run out of lessons and ideas, and will have to come up with increasingly contrived and ridiculous lessons, just as what Twilight is doing here. If the writers still had to have a letter at the end of every episode, then, by now, each episode would be some horrible contrived mess full of weak attempts to draw a lesson out of each episode. At least to me, it became clear that the ideas were starting to run thin toward the end of Season 1. Episodes like A Dog and Pony Show and The Cutie Mark Chronicles all bear signs of the writers just suddenly realizing, oh shit, we wrote a perfectly good episode, but it doesn't have a letter at the end. We're just gonna have to make something up. I really enjoyed Cutie Mark Chronicles right up until the end, where the letter was almost as bullshit as the letter in Feeling Pinky Keen. Don't even get me started on that. If we're getting crap like, friends have a magical connection to each other before they've even met, just 23 episodes in, just imagine what we would have after 64 episodes. But here's the good part. The writers were able to see this coming and very skillfully and gracefully avoided it with Lesson 0. The end of Lesson 0 established that Twilight no longer has to write a letter every week. This means that the writers don't have to put a letter at the end of every episode. The writers had successfully freed themselves from the inevitable disaster of running out of ideas. No longer did they have to continually pull ideas out of an ever-growing ass of contrived lessons. They were free to write episodes as they wanted and not worry about having to tack a few sentences onto the end to make it sound meaningful when the episode could be just as, if not more meaningful without those sentences. Here, My Little Pony had done something that so many TV shows had unfortunately failed to do. The writers saw the shark coming and were able to turn away before it was too late and they had to jump it. So why is it that My Little Pony is 3 seasons in and still a fantastic show? Why, it's because of a single episode at the start of Season 2 which lifted the show out of the depths of formulation, and that is why Lesson 0 is the most important episode in the entire show. Thanks for listening.